The sleek silver spacecraft pierced through the obsidian void of space, its powerful thrusters propelling it towards the small blue-green orb that beckoned in the distance. Inside the ship, the crew of 7 alien explorers from the planet Zephyr-Prime prepared to make history. Commander Zorax stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes scanning the holographic navigation displays hovering before him. His green reptilian skin glistened under the pulsing lights of the consoles. Sensors report, he barked. "What's our ETA at the planet, LT?" Kyra swiveled in her chair to face him, her delicate purple fingers dancing over her controls. "We will enter the planet's orbit in approximately 1 standard hour, sir. Preliminary scans show an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere at moderate temperatures, liquid water on the surface. It appears capable of supporting life. Any signs of civilization? Cities, technology, communications?" "Negative, sir," replied Kyra. "I'm not detecting any obvious indicators of an advanced society, though I am picking up some unusual energy patterns across the surface and in the upper atmosphere. But they don't match any known technology." "Interesting. Perhaps this will be more than just another barren rock after all," mused Zorax, stroking his chin. "Science Officer Talon, what do you make of these energy readings?" The avian scientist perched at his station ruffled his sapphire plumage as he studied the data streaming across his screen. "I've never seen oscillations quite like these," Talon chirped, cocking his head quizzically. "The patterns are highly complex and organized, almost rhythmic in a way. If I didn't know any better, I'd say they almost seem biological in nature. But I've no idea what could generate biology on a planetary scale like this." Zorax exchanged a fascinated look with the other officers on the bridge. "Then it seems we've stumbled upon quite the mystery. This definitely warrants further investigation. Helm, take us into close orbit. Comms, notify the survey teams to prepare for landing as soon as we complete our scans." "Sir." "Yes, sir," the bridge crew burst into activity, carrying out his orders. As the spacecraft swooped down towards the enigmatic planet, Zorax gazed out at the swirling white clouds and deep blue oceans below. He could hardly contain his excitement. This unassuming world could hold the discovery of a lifetime. After nearly a year in deep space searching for signs of life beyond their own, the crew of the Zephyr's Horizon was eager to stretch their legs on solid ground once again. Little did they suspect just how extraordinary this particular stretch of land would turn out to be. That the entire planet itself was alive, aware, and waiting for them. Zorax made his way down to the loading bay, where the survey teams were gathered, checking their equipment and suiting up in their protective exo-armor. LT. Zarn, the statuesque head of security, snapped to attention as Zorax entered. "Commander, on deck," she called out. The chittering conversations died away, and the crew turned to face him. "At ease," Zorax said, waving a webbed hand. "As you've no doubt heard, we are about to set foot on the surface of a new world, one that just may hold the key to our mission's success. Our scans show no signs of technology or civilization, but have detected some intriguing energy readings we can't yet explain." Excited murmuring rippled through the assembled scientists and soldiers. Zorax held up a hand for silence. "I want teams advancing with caution. We have no idea what we're walking into down there. Stay alert, check in regularly, and be prepared for anything. We came here seeking peaceful contact with new forms of life, intelligent life. There may yet be more to this planet than meets the eye, but let's not forget the dangers we've faced before." Zorax watched his crew as they made their final preparations, pride swelling in his chest. They were the best the Alliance had to offer, the brightest minds and bravest hearts from a dozen worlds. Together they had already overcome so much. As the first expedition to voyage beyond the frontiers of Allied space in generations, the eyes of billions rested upon them. "Company ready for drop, Commander LT," Zarn reported. "Shuttle pods standing by." "Well then," Zorax grinned, a gleam in his eye. "Let's not keep our hosts waiting any longer. It's time to make history." Zarn gave a quick salute, and then turned to bellow at the crew. "You heard the commander. Look alive and load up. I want first landing parties planetside in 15 minutes. Move it, move it, move it." As the exploration teams hustled into position, the ground beneath the Zephyr's horizon trembled almost imperceptibly, and a vast, ancient awareness began to stir from its long dormancy far below. The alien shuttle pods streaked through the clear blue sky, anti-grav thrusters humming. Inside the lead craft, Zorax watched the lush landscape rolling by underneath them, pristine emerald forests stretching from horizon to horizon, broken only by snaking rivers that sparkled in the morning sunlight. Herds of strange grazing beasts scattered as the vessel screamed past overhead. Deploy landing sensors, Zorax ordered over the comms. Let's find a good spot to put down. So what do you think we'll find down there, LT? Zarn asked from the seat beside him. Besides trees and critters, I mean. You really believe there might be some sort of intelligence here we've missed? Zorax stroked the bony ridges over his eyes pensively. I don't know what we'll find, Zarn. But there is more to this place than there appears. I can feel it in my guts. Call it a hunch. Sir, I think I have something called the pilot. Topographical scans show an anomalous landmass 50 clicks ahead. Define anomalous. Well, it's a mountain, sir. A mountain that isn't on any of our orbital surveys of the region. Zorax and Zarn exchanged a look of surprise. It just appeared. How is that possible? Unknown, sir. But its big rough coordinates put it at 3 kilometers high and 5 kilometers across. Definitely wasn't there during our last pass. Helmsman, set course for the mountain. Best possible speed, Zorax commanded, eyes narrowing. All other teams converge on our position. Science Officer Talon, what are you getting on sensors now? The avian scientist's face appeared on Zorax's wrist holo. Commander, the energy patterns we detected from orbit are spiking massively in the vicinity of that mountain. The emanations are off the scale like nothing I've ever seen. A technology of some kind after all. If it is, it's like no technology our civilization has encountered before. I don't. Wait, Talon broke off, eyes widening at something off screen. By the Seven Suns, the pilot gasped and Zorax snapped his gaze forward. The mountain had come into view. And it was moving. Gargantuan shards of black stone shifted and rotated, grinding against each other in the distance. Anything that large shouldn't have been able to move that quickly. A chasm yawned open across its surface, glowing from within. As he watched transfixed, the fissure took on a familiar shape. An eye. Kilometers high and infinitely deep, it swiveled to fix the tiny ships with its unblinking gaze. A voice like grinding tectonics rumbled across the plains. Welcome, far-flung travelers, to the world you call Earth. It boomed in oddly accented Alliance standard. We have dreamt of your arrival for eons untold. No one could move or breathe, let alone formulate a response. After a moment, the mountain spoke again in a voice that made the ground tremble. Aye, Earth, I have been waiting for you. Zorax finally found his voice. Waiting for us. Across the stars I felt your minds, years and parsecs removed from here and now. I knew your quest would one day bring you to me. The commander's mind raced to process this reality-shattering revelation. You're alive? This whole planet is a living being. Aye, a world entire, Commander Zorax. My body is water and stone, my blood flows in magma and glaciers, my breath gusts through forests and canyons. Your people are motes adrift in the story I have woven. Terror warred with wonder in Zorax's chest. Then you know why we've come. What we seek. You quest for meaning in an ancient, empty cosmos. For some sign that yours is not the only spark of sapience to flicker against the pitiless void. Yes, exactly that. For generations we've wondered if we were alone. If in all the galaxy only we had arisen to question it, but now, to find another mind, even if in this astonishing form. Your journey has been long and your hearts are weary, the voice rumbled, more gently than before. Land then and walk freely in my gardens. There is much I would discuss with your species, star wanderers. Slowly, carefully, the floating mountain before them began to subside, thundering back into the subterranean depths from which it had arisen. My voice will find you again in time. For now, rest and make yourselves known to me. Thank you, Zorax found himself saying, unsure of the proper etiquette for addressing a living planet. We are honored to meet you, to learn from you, as I from you. Long have I pondered the stars and the silence between. Only now can I grasp what wonders they hold. The shuttle pod shook as it set down in a grassy clearing, not far from where the impossible mountain had stood minutes before. Zorax's comlink buzzed. Commander, did that just... Are you seeing? Talon's normally unshakable voice cracked. Everyone stay calm, Zorax transmitted on all channels. We're dealing with an intelligence far beyond our previous understanding. Proceed carefully and await further instructions. He switched off the link and turned to LT, Zarn beside him. So, here we are, making first contact. Only it's the planet that's been expecting us. Zarn gave a nervous chuckle. That's one way to make a living, I suppose. You really think this Earth means us no harm? She fidgeted with her blaster rifle. If it wanted to hurt us, we'd be space dust already, Zorax replied. I think it's just as curious about life out there as we are. He gazed out the viewport at the idyllic, impossible landscape and shook his head in amazement. Zarn, I've got a feeling we're in for one hell of a conversation. Let's just hope we're ready for whatever it has to say. The security chief grunted her assent. Never enlisted for chit-chat with planets, but I reckon I've seen weirder things since shipping out with this outfit, though not by much. Zorax laughed and reached for the hatch controls. Then let's go say hello. If anyone needs me, I'll be taking a stroll within Cosmos' old terrestrial intelligence. The alien commander and his lieutenant stepped out into the fragrant air of an impossible new world and an even more impossible new friend. Though the nature of that friendship and what it would mean for the universe beyond remained to be seen. Over the next hours and days, the crew of the Zephyr's Horizon spread out across the surface of Earth, establishing a base camp and perimeter, collecting samples, and documenting everything they could about the miraculous living world. But despite their best scientific instruments and inquisitive minds, the true nature of the planetary entity remained elusive. The voice from within the world would speak to them at odd intervals, sometimes with an almost parental warmth, other times with cryptic musings and esoteric riddles. When pressed for details about itself, its origins, its purpose, its desires, it would demur, or fall silent entirely. We are each a mystery unto the other, it would say. In time, understanding may bloom between us like a flower in the desert. Until then, let us simply marvel at the strangeness we find. Zorax and his crew quickly fell into an easy routine, almost forgetting they walked upon the back of an unfathomably ancient and cosmically wise entity, rather than just another garden world. But then some fresh weirdness would crop up to remind them: a grove of trees shivering to form glyphs and fractal patterns, a river suddenly rerouting itself before their eyes, a cavern whispering deep geological secrets to those who dared venture within. Even with a living planet as their host, there was still science to conduct, camps to manage, a mission to complete. After several days, though the sun overhead never precisely set, and time seemed to move strangely on this world's surface, Zorax called a meeting in the heart of their sprawling encampment. LT, Talon, LT, Kyra, LT, Zarn, and the dozen other section chiefs gathered around the central holo table, displaying a slowly rotating model of Earth, glittering with annotated anomalies and energy patterns. So the commander began without preamble. What have we learned? The senior staff shifted and glanced at each other uncomfortably. Finally, Talon spoke up. In many ways, Commander, very little. The physical constants of this planet all seem to check out: gravity, atmosphere composition, geologic strata, all appear relatively mundane. But every time we think we're getting a grip on things, the world quite literally shifts under our feet, LT. Kyra continued. We've recorded spontaneous alterations in landscape and topology, extreme seismic and meteorological events that defy any natural models, and of course, the periodic manifestations of the intelligence within the planet itself. What about these subminds I've heard reports about? The localized sapient phenomena, LT. Zarn tapped a few keys, and the holo display zoomed in on a pulsing dot. We've made contact with a number of regional precincts of awareness, for lack of a better term, sir. Genius loci anchored to certain locations that seem to act as mouthpieces for the planet at large. But even they can only speak in vague generalities about the world's true nature and agenda. Zorax stroked his chin in thought. So what's our working theory then? If this planet is alive and aware, how did it get that way? Is Earth a product of natural evolution just on a tremendous scale and complexity? Or was it created by something else, something even bigger out there? Silence greeted his question as the officers fidgeted and stared into the slowly spinning globe of light, as if the answer might suddenly reveal itself. At last, Science Officer Talon ruffled his brilliant plumage and fixed Zorax with an intent gaze. The diversity and depth of knowledge the planetary mind seems to possess defies a natural origin. In my analysis, an aware ecosystem might evolve given eons, but this feels more like a construct, a machine of life and stone built to fulfill some greater purpose. Zorax nodded seriously. Go on. The technologies, if they can be called that, woven into every shred of matter here from soil to storm, are so far beyond our understanding that we can barely perceive them, let alone replicate them. The power to reorganize physical reality on this scale. It's quite literally world-shaping. And yet we've seen no other signs of the beings mighty enough to create such a thing. The commander walked to the edge of the glowing sphere, an idea forming. What if? What if Earth isn't just a created intelligence, but a repository? A tomb or time capsule left behind by its long-vanished makers. The last speaker for a lost civilization. Hence why it was so eager for our arrival. LT Kyra breathed in realization. We may be the first new minds it's encountered since its designers departed or went extinct. Zorax spun to face his crew, a determined set to his jaw. Then I believe our mission is clear. We must do everything in our power to understand Earth's purpose and carry on the torch of its creator's legacy. It didn't choose to reveal itself to us on a whim. This is an opportunity, perhaps a responsibility, that only comes once in a civilization's history. We cannot squander it. Murmurs of assent met his rallying cry. Talon bobbed his feathered head. Imagine if we could harness a fraction of the planet's knowledge and technology. What we could do. Let's take this one epiphany at a time, Zorax cautioned. Our first duty is to establish a cooperative dialogue with the entity, learn all we can, share all we can, and ensure our peoples can coexist in peace. Then perhaps we can start unraveling the deeper mysteries at play here. The staff nodded their agreement and set about discussing plans for advancing contact with Earth and analyzing the troves of data they'd already collected. Zorax dismissed them to their duties but remained behind, gazing into the depths of the planet slowly turning hollow. What secrets do you hold? He murmured under his breath. What miracles or nightmares, and are we worthy to inherit them? As if in answer, a whisper of movement drew his attention to the open flap of the command tent. A bird, a sleek black thing with eyes like polished onyx, hopped inside and fluttered to land on the holotable. Opening its beak, it spoke in a familiar rumbling voice. Commander Zorax, the time has come for us to truly talk, mind to mind to mind, soul to soul. Zorax started, mandibles agape. You can puppeteer the creatures here? Take direct control. All life that crawls or swims or flies across my surface is a part of me, an expression of my will. This form is crude, but it will serve for now. The commander approached hesitantly. Then, I am honored. What would you discuss with me, Great One? The bird's head twitched to follow Zorax with one unblinking eye. When it spoke again, it sounded almost uncertain, hesitant in a way he had not heard from the planetary voice before. I have watched and pondered your species since your arrival. You are perplexing to me, chaotic, fractious, and yet there is a nobility in you. A drive to band together and explore, to push beyond the known and the safe, much like those that made Maine, the makers. LT. Talon theorized. So it's true you were created, not born naturally, after a fashion. My origins are complex, but you are correct that I was wrought by another civilization long ago. The first and greatest of my kind. Zorax felt a thrill of excitement and trepidation. There are others like you out there. There were. We were created to be caretakers, gardeners of sapient life across 1,000 worlds, each unique, each sublime in our purpose. Created by whom? And where are they now? The bird was silent for a long moment. My makers moved on long ago. Even I do not know where or why. As for the others of my kind, I have felt their lights wink out over the ages, one by one. I fear I may be the last. I'm so sorry, Zorax said, moved by an inexplicable upwelling of sympathy for the ancient, lonely entity. I have been empty for so long, Commander, yearning for the vibrancy of minds not my own. You cannot imagine my joy at your arrival. The voice paused, seeming to compose itself, which is why I must now share with you the truth and travails of my long existence, so that you may prepare yourselves. Zorax steeled himself. Prepare ourselves for what? Oh, for the darkness that hunts among the stars. The doom that claimed my siblings, and which now turns its gaze upon you. A shudder ran through Zorax despite himself. When he found his voice again, it was thick with dread. Tell me everything. Over the next several hours, the two beings won a mere mote in the grand dance of the cosmos. the other a titanic intellect vast as an entire world communed through the insignificant medium of a bird. By the time Earth was done sharing its tale, Zorax was filled with both exhilaration and terror. Earth disclosed a history spanning eons of the rise and fall of galactic empires, the flowering of entire lineages of living planets and other grand megastructures, and the inscrutable purposes of universe shapers whom it knew only as the founders. Each living world was imbued with what Earth called the gift, the power to cultivate entire ecosystems and nudge the species that dwelt upon them towards peace and enlightenment. But one by one, over tens of thousands of years, the great Gaian network succumbed to a creeping blight of corruption and madness. One after another, Earth's siblings went silent, snuffed out by an implacable outside force that sought to undo all the founders had wrought. The darkness in the void between. It comes not as I, conqueror, but as a deceiver, an unraveler, Commander Earth explained with palpable grief. It turns sapiens' own hearts and minds against them, twisting noble purposes to nightmare. Love to hate, curiosity to paranoia, unity to xenophobia. And you believe it now threatens my civilization as well? Zorax wondered aloud. I have felt its taint at the edges of my perception for many long cycles now. I fear your arrival in this sector has drawn its attention once again. Can it be stopped? Surely with your knowledge and power. The bird shook its head sadly. If I knew how, I would have aided my siblings in eons past. We are grand, Commander, but we are not gods. In this, we are all equally outmatched. Then what can we do? Zorax asked, aghast but resolved. My people face many troubles, it's true, but also more hopes and dreams than ever before. I cannot let some void-spawned evil undo all that. Nor would I allow it, Earth said. You are precious to me, the first new sapiens I have found since time immemorial. I will not see your kind's light extinguished. The planet fell silent in thought for a moment. There may be a way. It has been long since I exercised my gift to its fullest potential. But for you, I will try. What do you mean? What gift? The power to shepherd the growth and trajectory of an entire species. Both upon my surface and beyond it, I propose an alliance between my mind and your civilization. Zorax's mouth went dry. The magnitude of what Earth was offering began to sink in. You mean, you would take an active hand in our development? Guide us into the galactic community as partners. Nothing so crude as puppet mastery, Earth assured him. Merely a light touch to help your disparate peoples come together. To recognize the oneness at the heart of all thinking beings. From such unity can the darkness be defied. Zorax's hearts thundered in his chest. This was an opportunity unparalleled in his species' history, but also an awesome and terrifying responsibility. Could he make such a decision on behalf of an entire civilization? Did he have any right to refuse? As if sensing his conflict, the bird said, "The choice is yours, Commander. I will not compel or cajole. I can only make the offer in good faith, from one sparks of meaning to another in this odd cosmos we share." The commander warred within himself a minute longer, but in the end there was only one answer he could give. The same bold leap into the unknown that had first set him among the stars, the same stubborn sense that had brought him to this strange and miraculous world. "Yes," he said. "Yes, we accept your gift, Earth, and your friendship. May our kinds join hands, appendages to face the future together." He clasped his scaled palm to his chest. "On behalf of all Zephyria, we thank you." The bird dipped its head in an approximation of a bow. "Then let our world's long collaboration begin." Zorax couldn't help but feel a thrill as he considered the cosmic scale of events unfolding and his own humble place within them. It was an aligning of fates, a new chapter for two ancient and lonely orders of being, and perhaps, just perhaps, a spark of hope against the encroaching night between the stars. Though the darkness was vaster and more terrible than Zorax could yet imagine, for the first time in eons, Earth did not feel alone in facing it. The great world rejoiced in its silicon soul, for though the way forward was uncertain, its long solitude was ended. The cosmos spun on, cold and mysterious as ever, but now with two civilizations, one young, one old, united against the gloom. Their improbable alliance would light the heavens for ages to come.